Yo guys, and welcome to another video on my channel. In this one, as you've probably read in the title, I'm going to do a full Apollo 11 mission using my Saturn V. So as you can see, I'm now launching it. And I'm also going to try to replicate the real mission as good as I can. So I'm gonna do some callouts as well. So as you can see, we are now accelerating. Everything is still looking nominal. We are at 100% thrust. We are slowly beginning our gravity turn. And we are now preparing to throttle down for max Q, also called maximum aerodynamic pressure. And throttle down. And we will throttle back up very shortly here. And there we have it, 100% again. And as with the real Saturn V, it has an abort system. And it of course has fairings around the moonlander and the crew capsule. So we have almost an apoapsis above the atmosphere of the Earth, which is perfect. I'm just going to turn a bit more to get the arc to be a bit wider already. And now I am almost fully horizontal to the Earth. We are now preparing for stage separation. Stage separation confirmed. Fairing separation. We're now going to get away the abort system. As you can see, there it goes, because we don't need it anymore. And for some reason my RCS thrusters went on, so I'm just gonna shut those off. And now I'm going to burn at my apoapsis again to get a Earth orbit. And from there we're going to get to the moon. So as you can see, we now have a low Earth orbit. And as they did in real life, I'm now going to decouple the moonlander, which is this part, and the crew module. And I'm going to turn the crew capsule around. So I've now selected the wrong part actually. So I'm going to switch to the other one. And we are going to switch on the RCS thrusters. And we are going to turn around and decouple with our nose. The nose of our lander towards the crew module. And there we have it, we have docking. So now we're going to go to the moon, click on navigate to. We're going to time warp towards our transfer point. We are going to point towards the arrow and we're going to accelerate. I'm also going to shut off the RCS thrusters. See, we need 450 meters per second roughly to get to the moon. Of course we are quickly accelerating because we don't have that big and heavy of a craft, so it's not hard to accelerate. I'm going to throttle down to not overshoot the moon. And there you have it, we will now encounter with the moon. So I'm going to get our periapsis a bit lower, that was a bit too low. Just like so, 60 kilometers in height is pretty good. And we're going to time warp until we are there. Also on board of the spacecraft right now are of course Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins, which were the real astronauts that were in Apollo 11. I actually just said 11, which is the Dutch number for 11. Because I'm Dutch, if you didn't know yet. So that's why my English might not be perfect sometimes. But I try my best. As you can see, we are now decelerating to get a moon orbit. We already have one, but I'm going to try to make it a bit better of an orbit, because this is just a real bad orbit. It's a bit of an ellipse. And then it's hard to do our rendezvous with our crew module once we have landed. So this is better. And now what we are going to do, we are going to decouple our moon lander, which is now crewed by Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. Michael Collins is staying in the crew module, just like they did in real life. And we are going to switch on the engine and decelerate until we have a great, how do you call it, moon landing point. So I'm just going to time warp until we are a bit lower in height. I'm going to go to about 20 kilometers. Just like so. I'm going to deploy the landing legs already. Just do not forget it, because it's a usual thing to forget. I'm going to slow down a bit more, while having my engine pointed towards the arrow so that I kill off my horizontal velocity and also my vertical velocity at the same time. This is about enough for now. I'm going to time warp a bit more. We are about right here, this is good enough. I'm going to slowly decelerate a bit. As you can see, we are now below 5 kilometers of the surface of the moon. As you can see, I'm stopping a lot of my velocity. My horizontal velocity is now only 30 meters per second and still going down, which is perfect, because we need as low as possible horizontal velocity. As you can see, I'm now 2 kilometers off the surface. And by this time, in the real mission, Neil Armstrong was actually controlling the spacecraft, because when they would control it from the Earth, it would take way longer because of the signals going from the Earth towards the spacecraft first. So it would take too long to make small corrections. So that's why it had to be piloted by someone inside of the craft. Which I would imagine would be really pressurizing, because it's about your life and the life of the one next to you. As you can see, we are below 1 kilometer of the surface. ,500 meters. It's 300, 250, 200, 150. And now I'm going a bit up again. Was not intentional, but it will be fine. $100. $50. 40, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, 5, 4, 3, touchdown. We have touchdown on the surface of the moon safely. So now they are going to do some checkouts, and then they are going to go outside of the spacecraft, outside of the moon lander. They are going to do some tests on the moon. Of course, plant the flag, and then they are going to make their ascent from the moon surface. I am going to simulate that a bit by time warping. As you can see, this is our crew module with Michael Collins still in it. And a small fact is that during this time he was considered the most lonely person alive, because he was the farthest away from Earth a human had ever been. And every time he went behind the moon, the signals couldn't reach the Earth. So that meant that he could not have any radio contact with anyone during that time. So right now, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong are doing some things on the moon, some experiments. And right now they are entering the craft again. And they are going to ascend to the crew module to make the rendezvous to get back home. So as you can see, engine is switched on. And we are now ascending from the moon surface. Our landing legs are back in, and it's actually really easy to get an orbit from the moon, because of course there is very low gravity, so you don't need much engine power or fuel. Just like so, we almost have an orbit already. I'm going to go straight up a bit, because otherwise we can't time warp until we are above 5 kilometers, so this way it goes a bit quicker. And this is now a bit too high actually. Our apoapsis is right here at the 50 kilometers. So we are going to have to slow that down a bit later. And this is what we have to reunite with. So I'm going to click on Navigate to. And as you see, I might actually be able to encounter with it immediately, so I'm going to try that. The problem with encountering a craft when you have clicked Navigate to is that you will only encounter it and you will not have a very similar speed to the craft you want to reunite with, which means that you might crash into it, so you have to be really careful. I'm going to time warp now, and as you can see, we're getting pretty close to our other craft, and it's of course way faster than we are. As you can see, it's almost at where we are. So I'm going to see if we can see it already, and yes we can. So I'm going to kill off velocity in comparison with our other craft. And now as you can see, we've also reached low moon orbit. Right now I'm switching on the RCS so that we can do smaller changes than we can with our regular engine. Of course, changes are also very easy to make because we are already so close to it, so we don't need a lot of thrust. So we don't need our normal engine. As you can see, it's now slowly gliding towards us, which is perfect. And we are now ready to dock with our spacecraft, with our crew module. So there you have it. We have docked with our crew module. And now we are ready to go back home. And for this one I'm going to return my entire lander, so this part of our rocket, because I can't decouple the capsule from here. So I'm going to bring the whole lander back to Earth safely. This crew module is going to burn up in the atmosphere when we enter it. Of course, there is no such thing as burning up on the atmosphere in SFS, but it's just going to crash down and we just imagine that it has burned up in the atmosphere. And all of our crew, so Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins and Neil Armstrong, will have entered this, the moon lander. So we're going to click the Earth and click Navigate to again. Then we're going to time warp towards our transfer point. And as you can see, we also need way less velocity to do this, to get back to the Earth. Because again, the moon has very low gravity. And this engine is still on. Of course it has to be off. And I'm now going to look where we would end up at the Earth. So I want a straight line towards the Earth. Then I'm going to decouple these two things, and I'm going to make a more softer entry for the crew capsule, because of course you need a bit of a gentle entry because we have astronauts on board. And for the crew module it doesn't really matter because it's gonna burn up in the atmosphere whatsoever. So I'm going to get its periapsis just below the atmosphere of the Earth, and just above the surface of the Earth, so right about here. And then I'm going to time warp towards it. And you can also still see our other craft. The crew module was just going straight towards the Earth. And it has now crashed already. And it has a way faster acceleration towards the Earth, because it goes straight towards the Earth instead of this lander, which is not going straight towards the Earth. It's going a bit more around it, but we are slowing down, so as you can see our apoapsis is decreasing, so we're not going to fly back into space again. But this makes for a much easier way of slowing down just using the atmosphere instead of engine power. Because if you would be to slow down a lot of your velocity in a vacuum without using the atmosphere, it would take about just as much fuel to get back to a normal and landable velocity, as it would have taken you to lift off and get to that velocity. And of course we don't have that much fuel. So we are at 10 kilometers, we have entered the Earth's lower atmosphere. As you can see, our periapsis is already in the surface of the Earth, which means we are going to head towards the Earth and land there. And as you can see, we are also slowing down a lot, because again we have entered the atmosphere. So we are bumping into air molecules, and actually just a lot of other molecules as well, which slow us down, of course. So also the craft would experience a lot of heat, because all of the molecules get compressed, and when you compress things they get hotter. So this is why normally you would have a very good heat shield, but there are no such thing as heat shields in this game. I'm going to deploy these 2 parachutes. Again, normally you would just have one parachute on top of the crew capsule. But in this case, I'm going to land the entire lander, the moon lander, instead of just the capsule with the people in it as well. So we have now gone below 250 kilometers. Our parachutes have fully deployed. I'm going to switch on my engine just to get a little bit of a softer landing. But as I said, normally you wouldn't need that, because you would separate this module from the entire moon landing. But anyways, we have touched down safely on the Earth. So normally this would also be a splashdown, so it would be in the sea for a softer landing again. But now we can get picked up by a ship, normally a ship. In this case, it would probably have to be a car or something. But that's it. We have completed the mission, and all of our crew is still safe, and they can live a beautiful life telling the story to everyone. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and then I'll see you guys in the next one. So thank you, and bye bye.